Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. The time is 8:54 a.m. and we are now going to be joined by CEO of African Peer Review Mechanism, that is Professor Eddy Maloka. We're going to be talking about a concept which I understand has worked in other countries when introduced. And Professor is suggesting that this is something that South Africa should apply its mind to. If not, we will be in deep trouble. Professor goes on to say, if South Africa continues on its current trend consistently for the next 20 years, history will fossilize us into a condition of permanent state of self-destruction. The time has come for a second republic. A very good morning to you, Professor. Welcome to the program.
Morning, God bless you, yes.
Did you hear my introduction?
Perfect, everything very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm a bit confused. So you are calling for a second republic to be established. I do know that it has worked in other countries, not only in African countries, but also Western countries as well. What on earth is a second republic? And if we call for a second republic, are we talking about the same role players in place? Because if that happens, I can't see us moving forward.
Look, good morning. I think for me, the point is, I'm following the South African debate. I'm a South African myself, and I write this, I make this suggestion as a South African, not really as a staff member of the African Union. And I hear us debating land, we're debating the judiciary. There's so much fighting in the country. As we speak now, there are demonstrations everywhere against this, against that. Unemployment rate is very high, and youth unemployment is even worse. And for me, I realize that the problems we have now is that what we established in 1994 has worked. And we are not yet even at the 30-year mark. And we're already seeing that there are some of the things we introduced in 1994 to respond to what was needed and required. And our leaders, in their wisdom, and I think they were correct on a number of them, they introduced and agreed that this is the way South Africa. But some of them no longer work, and they are contributing to our current problems. So, and one of the things that you implied in your question, it's really that we need a system that can hold our public representatives accountable. We developed a political dispensation, or a constitutional model rather, a constitutional model which was inclusive, building a non-racial country, a rainbow nation, and all of those things. And we also ensure that multiple voices in our country are here. So we developed this proportional representation system, and so on and so on. But what we could not anticipate is that the people who we had in mind, who were there, will over time leave, and a new group of people will come in who were not there when these ideas come up. And some of them, of course, are still there in important positions. But now the system is not suited to them. So we need a new system now that can say, look, this one worked for a while and it was for that period. Now we need a system where South Africans, I can wake up and decide and choose my president directly and elect my MP in my own constituency. And I should be able to do that. And I think it's one major weakness in our system, that South Africans can't elect their public representatives.
Okay, so the key question here would be, are our politicians open to an idea like this? Would they not be insecure about the fact that perhaps power will be taken away from them if you introduce a new republic? I know it's worked well for Ghana because they are in their fourth republic. France, for example, is in their fifth republic. And we know, as you have indicated, that countries establish a new republic as a drastic measure for a variety of reasons. And we understand some of the reasons we're sitting with regarding our political dispensation in our country. And as I've said, the big question is, are our political leaders ready for something like this?
No, I think the atmosphere is, no, 100%, I can follow you. I think the atmosphere is ripe for this kind of ideas, because even within the ruling party itself, there is a recognition that something new has to happen. And just a few days ago, the National Executive Committee of the ANC, the ruling party, met and established what they call the Renewal Commission. It came out of the address of the president at the beginning of this year to say, so there is a general recognition, even within the ruling party, among those who are in the leadership, to say something new has to happen. We can't continue this way. So I'm contributing in that context to say, let's not be talking land, these are important issues, but the issue, let's look at the dispensation and let's have the courage to say what doesn't work. Let's not insist on keeping things that don't work, that are contributing to a problem. And I'm going to, my proposal that if you implement it, you have to put the dispensation into three categories, our dispensation into three categories. Those that we introduced and are working very well, like land racialism, rainbow nation, the Bill of Rights, the constitutional state, and so on. These are the things we should not take for granted because other countries don't have them. So these are the things we can retain and consolidate. Then there are things that are there that may be irritating to us, but are not essential to the system, and we can just tolerate. And then the third category are those things that were created in 1994 as we were negotiating, trying to have everybody on board, but which no longer work and are contributing to our problem. And I make an example here. One of them is it's a constitutional dispensation that privileges political parties over the South African people. That political parties are the ones who decide who's in leadership. And we South Africans, we decide on which party we want to support. And the party itself, with its own internal mechanisms or mechanism, then decides on who it puts in which position. And that system, I think, is one of our problems at the moment. So we need a system where South Africans can have a direct dialogue with those that they put into power to say, I like you, I don't like you, you are good, you are not. And it's one of the things that really is creating tension in our own society. There's a serious gap between those who we put in office and what the South African people want.
Okay, so Professor, you and I are talking at a high level here regarding the new republic, the formation of a new republic. And undoubtedly, South Africa is at this crossroad. If
Indeed,
something
yeah.
doesn't happen now, we probably have a South African uprising, or
Exactly.
like the Arab Spring that we saw
Mhm.
in 2011. And that is how serious the matter is. But as far as the people on the ground are concerned, it's really the bread and butter issues. It's about employment. It's about to do away with corruption. It's about education. It's about access to health services. Will the new republic, let's assume it gets formed almost immediately within the next few months, will it be able to deliver on this?
Well,
Because it's
definitely. I
crucial.
think that you will see further in some of the suggestions that I have that we should merge the provinces with local government because the provinces were created as a compromise. I work in the province myself as an advisor to the premier. I don't want to pretend to know the provinces well, but I'm quite familiar with the provinces. That they were compromised and they are just an overload on our system, and we spend too much money on them. We can do without them somehow. But what we need to do, you can't do away with some of the functions that they do. But local government, that's really where you could say lies substantive authority of the state, the local councils, the bylaws, and so on. So what I'm suggesting is that we merge these two tiers of our state into one and consolidate their legislatures and then probably break them into smaller entities. Here I have in mind the model that in Kenya they adopted a few years ago of counties, and then each county is led by a governor and they have a county councils and the governors are directly elected. That could be more like our premiers, but they are directly elected. But then at the lower level, then you create the street committees or community committees. So each committee has its area at the local level, manages its own affairs, deals with our youth, ensures that those who are not employed are integrated into society, deals with the issues of drugs, deals with the issues of crime. It works very well in other countries that we give local communities responsibility for their own areas. But this is something that is missing in our system. I go into local areas, you see the total collapse of the state. We can't even, people can't look after their own parks and all of that. But they are there, they've got the hands, and the state has a budget Is there the budget for looking and maintenance of parks? But our parks have collapsed and people have hands. Why? Because we don't have a constitutional model that allows our people to take care of their own neighborhoods. Instead, we have created a system that creates dependency on state handouts. And I think that we need to find a model that says you are responsible for their own areas. They have their local leaders, they elect, and those local leaders ensure that we deal with problems of unemployment at local level. People can build their own houses. We see it happening in a lot of provinces. People are building their own houses. So we should trust our people, that our people can do things for themselves. We all have hands. We don't have to wait for the state to come to us with an RDP or a service delivery truck. So people must lead in the improvement of their own conditions.
It certainly sounds like the answer for us here in South Africa. In your article, you also talk about three types of leadership. And obviously, if you have the right type of leadership driving this initiative, surely it can be nothing but successful. Talk to us about those leadership styles.
Well, I coined the words, but I think, but this I'm talking, from a more historical comparative, you could say, perspective. You look at when a country is in a crisis, what sort of leadership tendencies emerge on the ground. The one that I think is where you'll always have those leaders who want to look after who want to come forward and say we can't allow our country to happen. They want to maintain the ship to keep the country from collapsing. I call that the captain of the ship. Then there will be those who will be wanting to take this crisis into to serve them and to advance their own individual ambition, because human ambition is quite natural among humans. It's not a defect. So there will be people who will do that, who want to pursue their own personal careers and speak the right language, but the intention is really their own personal ambitions. And I'm really discouraging that kind of leadership. I think you definitely need the captain of the ship, because you can't let the country collapse. Somebody has to hold the ship together, the country together. But the one that I'm more inclined to support more is what I call Madiba's Mojo. These are the leaders that when you are at a crisis, doing these things the same way over and over doesn't take you out of the crisis. But you need people who don't fear the unknown. Because the problem is that a solution to a crisis, it's a step into the unknown. But not everybody has the courage to take us into the unknown like Madiba. Madiba was able, even something that has not happened, but he had the imagination, and leaders like that to say this is good for the country, and he will be brave and take the step. So that's what we need. We need leaders who will not be afraid of taking us into the unknown, because that's where our solution lies. Our solution does not lie in repeating and continuing to do what we are doing over and over, because we are just going to go into into this direction of decline. But if we go into the unknown, and it's the correct unknown, and I'm proposing here that this unknown we should move towards this unknown through the route of a second republic. Let's revisit the entire dispensation. Let's say what works, what didn't work. This work we retain, we consolidate. This one we can tolerate. This one we get rid of. Let's start afresh somehow, building on what we have achieved since 1994.
And will the
So this is
people on
really
the
what I
ground,
propose as the foundation for the unknown. Thank you very much.
okay, my final question, will the people on the ground understand the reason for a second republic? Will the politicians and people like yourself be able to break it down for the lay people, for them to understand what this is all about, and not for them to feel disenfranchised or believe that more power is being taken away from them?
I think we have to do, the people have to participate in two ways. During the Kodesa exercise, because it was a negotiation between parties that were historically in the conflict, so it had to take that form. We're fortunate we didn't have an external element to it mediating like in other countries. So it was South Africans negotiating. So this time we don't need that kind of engagement. If we agree that let's revisit the entire dispensation, so there must be a mass mobilization. There must be We must go out into communities. We must work with for communities to say, this is what we want, this is what we want. Get rid of this. It should not be an elite-led process. The people, the government should create a mechanism through which people can make inputs, because South Africans have ideas. Myself, I know I've worked with institutions, and I know when I come into an organization that is facing challenges, I don't go outside for solutions. I ask colleagues who are there, what do you think? People know what they want. They know they need to be involved. So that's the first way that's in South Africa. So it should not be an elite process. It should be a mass mobilization. You radio station, everybody involved through a mechanism created by the state where we all input, and there are experts working and putting together this into some sort of set of proposals. Once there's a set of proposals together, let's subject it to a referendum. So South Africans go and vote that. So this one then will be led by the Electoral Commission. We go, we say, this is the document. You want this, you don't. You want this, you don't. South Africans go out and vote and say, we want that. So once they voted, then we start the implementation. So South Africans, they have to be involved in this exercise. It should not be it should not be a negotiated pact among the elites. It should not be a transaction among the elites. It should be something that involves our people across the board, across the breadth of our country.
Sounds like a socialist.
No, I think don't undermine South Africans. I grew up as an activist.
I say it from a very positive point of view, because this is really what we need, obviously. Otherwise, what we see happening around us is that there's this huge divide between the very rich, who seem to be getting richer, and the poor getting poorer.
Exactly.
So it's exactly
we
what we
really
need in the
have
country.
I believe strongly it's something, and your radio station is quite useful. You have a constituency, you have a community that follows you. Let's really rally South Africans, not over divisions. Let's not be fighting. Let's rally. Just say, look, where must we be? What should be our next step? Not what should divide us more. And I think that's the path I think we should be pursuing, because we'll fight and kill each other. It has happened in a number of countries. People fight each other for over 100 years. There's no progress. It will happen to us.
I can't agree with you more. It sounds truly like what South Africa needs. And as I've indicated, it's worked in Uganda and it's worked in Western countries as well. That's not to say that the Western world has all the answers, but it's indicative of the fact that it is a workable solution.
Indeed,
my final question then to you is, where and how will a rapid, RET play out in this scenario? Does it have a place? Will it have a place?
I don't want to get involved in internal ANC debate, because the RET emanates from a resolution in the ANC of radical economic transformation, and I'm not thinking of something along that lines, even though I think it's an important element of it. It could be a driver, but I think that we need some sort of some sort of a new model of CODESA, if you want. I don't know whether you are old enough to have been there when we had CODESA. But CODESA was an elite transaction, and it was imposed on us by circumstances, because our leaders had to sit around the table and transact. But we now need a new CODESA, but this CODESA has to be a ground-based driven CODESA, where we go out and then we listen to our people and we try to find a solution to our country. So I don't have solution as to what should be the elements of this second transition in its entirety. But I think that we need to be brave to say, we have done a lot, we have achieved this does, and then start and say, look, we need to establish a new dispensation. And I think once we do that, even South Africans, their focus will change. We live in a new system. It will be like a home makeover. When you do a home makeover, you move out curtains. It's like you live in the new house when actually you are still in the same physical entity.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute delight talking with you this morning. I could sit here talking to you.
And don't disappear, because after this now we really need to take this and engage South Africans and talk to South Africans. But I also believe that our leaders will listen to it. They will say it's a good idea, because many of them really are concerned about the state at which our country is.
Absolutely. I think this conversation has to be taken further with you and I. There's
Thank
lots
you.
more to
Yeah.
unpack, but we need more time for it. So
Thank you very much. God
hopefully
bless
in the
you. Thank
coming
you.
days we will talk some more.
Thank you
Thank
very
you and
much.
God bless.
Thank you very much.
Lovely
Enjoy your
talking to
day and
you
with your colleagues. Thank you
and
very much.
you and you.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Amin, Thuma Amin. That was Professor Eddy Maloka. He's the CEO of African Peer Review, talking about South Africa obviously needs to talk about a second republic. It has to be established. Otherwise, I think we are in for a South African spring. The conditions are ripe and ready for an uprising. So, I don't want to be the prophet of doom and gloom, but things are really dire. Just look at Stats South Africa's figures. And I think those figures are still slanting on the positive. I think they're much, much worse than they actually appear to be. But we will obviously unpack all of those issues in a future program. 15 after 9 o'clock exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media. Stay with us. Lots more coming your way.